Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Neuro-Inclusive Dog Pod, the podcast where we bridge the gap between neurodiversity and the dog world. Today, I am joined by another fantastic guest, Louise from Loopy Paws. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she does. So, hi, Louise. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me today. I'm very excited and a little bit nervous. This is my first ever podcast.
Oh, don't worry. It's not as scary as it seems. So could you tell us a little bit about what you do with Loopy Paws?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Louise. I run Loopy Paws. I've been going for just under 2 years. And I specialise in helping families with their dogs. So I'm a family specialist, which means I help people right from the start before they've even got their puppy, help decide kind of what breed would be suitable for them and for their whole family, and how to find that puppy to make sure they've had the right health tests, make sure they don't fall for any kind of the scams that seem to be quite obvious at the moment on a lot of the pet sites, and to prepare for them to make sure they've got the right equipment. And then all the way through from helping with puppy classes, helping their children understand the dog's body language, and all the fun things they can do with that dog further on in line.
Amazing. So it's such a crucial thing that you do, isn't it, when it comes to picking a puppy in general or a dog in general, but when there's children involved, there's so many like potential things that can go wrong, isn't there? And it's really, really important that, you know, as much as we can do. I mean, so some people don't go and do that research, so it's fantastic that there's people like you that help people to do that. So how did you get into helping families when it comes to, you know, the work that you do? What made you go down that route as opposed to other things?
So finding our own puppy, I was down to get a golden retriever from a local breeder, and she was lovely. I did all the checks. We were waiting patiently, and when the little was born, they didn't have the female, which is one of the ones that I wanted.
Right.
We changed all of our work based on getting a puppy around that date. So we were like, well, now we have to find another one during that time. So we're off, we've got time to settle them in. And quite a lot of families do that, because if you've only got 21 days leave a year, that's quite hard for you to then fit in a new puppy. So if something was to fall through and you've already planned all of this around it, it can be quite hard. And the children, I grew up with big dogs like German Shepherds and Labradors, and so my children are quite used to that. But when I spoke to other families, they've, as adults, have grown up with these big breed dogs, but their children are actually a bit worried about them because they haven't. So then finding a breed that's suitable for everybody in the family, not just what the parent likes the idea of, is really important. So I think that kind of helped realizing actually things don't always go as planned. How can we check and get as much as we can information and research for everything ready for when we are ready?
Yeah, I think that's such an important thing as well, isn't it? Like getting the needs of everybody's met as well, because obviously with families, it's usually what the parents want, and they just kind of expect the dog to fit in or the kids to cope. And it's really interesting you say that a lot of kids don't, you know, might not have the confidence with dogs, and especially with our son when we got our first dog, but we're talking over 11 years ago now, but he was really scared of dogs as a little toddler and stuff. And it wasn't until we got our dog really that he grew in confidence around them, and now you would never know. So I think there's lots of different things to think about, isn't there, when it comes to picking a dog for a family. Do you deal with like any kind of neurodivergence when it comes to those kind of families as well, or is it kind of a mix? Or
especially at the moment where a lot more families are understanding things like ADHD and autism, sensory processing. So they are looking to get like either a therapy dog or a dog to help their child become more confident because of a diagnosis. But they always look online at the finished products. They're looking at the dogs that are already 2-3 years into their training. And they're always those typical breeds of like Labradors, Golden Retrievers, Collies, which are brilliant breeds. But if you've never had a dog before, they're quite high breeds. They've got a high drive. That's the reason why they're so good at those jobs in the future. But you've got to get through the puppy and the adolescent stage first. And if you've got a child with sensory processing issues and you get a Golden Retriever with slobber everywhere, hair everywhere, puppy with its mouthing, that can overload a child. So understanding what you want at the end, but how you can get there in the meantime and sure everyone's on the same page and wanting that is
Yeah.
important, because if they haven't got a bond right from the beginning, by the time they get old enough to do those kind of tasks, they're not going to have that bond to be able to complete them.
Yeah, and I think that's super important, isn't it? Like you mentioned about the sensory processing thing there, and it's like little things like that that not everybody thinks about. And I think as well, one of the common things that I see, I mean, I don't do this kind of work, but just in general, when I deal with a lot of spaniels, a lot of sensitive spaniels, a lot of overexcited spaniels, and I think, and you know, like cockapoos and that kind of thing. And I think people see, like you say, a finished product or someone else's really, you know, well-behaved dog, and they just think that every dog's going to be like that, when actually sometimes it can get like a little ball of like a maniac, can't you? Really, there's a high energy maniac that's stealing the dog's toys and all of that. And I think especially with the gun dog breeds that like to, you know, carry things, pick things up and things, I think it's quite a common problem that I see as a normal trainer, that they don't realize that that's one of the breed genetic traits, basically, that they like to pick up and carry things. So if you've got a house with kids and toys and things like that, and that's when you can get into a little bit of conflict, isn't it? And you know, resource guarding potential and all of that. So it is super important that they kind of understand what they're getting involved in before, you know, before the finished product, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing sometimes. So for fact wise, 80% of dog bites happen on children.
Oh,
And the most common dog to bite is a Labrador. And again, no one ever suspects that, because they're seen as the Disney dog, they're seen on all the shows and therapy dogs, they go into
yeah,
hospitals. But it's because they've had that understanding and training from the start.
yeah.
And obviously they're probably not the fatal instances, but they still happen. So understanding kind of the body language and all the stuff you have to do in between does really
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, it's really good that you're doing this line of work, because what I'm definitely hearing more and more of is people, families getting these dogs to, you know, train themselves or with the intention of being like an assistance dog. However, not really necessarily knowing very much about the breed, or they've heard the friends have said this, that, or the other. And there's a massive rise at the minute of incidences. You know what I'm trying to say? Whatever that word is, my brain has just switched off. Incident, whatever that is. I'm not even going to attempt to try and say it. Where the children are actually getting bitten because it's, you know, they're just not understanding this dog body language. And also I think the parents are trying to help, aren't they, by getting the dog, you know, they know that the neurodivergent children might be helped by a dog, you know, etc. And then they just kind of don't really understand what they're getting involved with. And then if you've got a neurodivergent child anyway that might get easily overwhelmed and all of these other things, it puts that much pressure, doesn't it, on the families that are already, you know, under extreme pressure as well, isn't it? So it's really difficult when the parents are just trying to do their best, but the best sometimes, because there's not a lot of information out there, is it? The internet is such a minefield when it comes to either assistance dogs or dogs in general, and there's so much good information, so much bad information. It's just really difficult, isn't it, for people?
And to be on a wait list at the moment to get a fully trained therapy dog, you're looking between 3 and 4 years.
Wow.
Um, and that's obviously case by case. So even the most severe cases that the dog could 100% improve that child or person's life can still take quite a while, because
Yeah.
there's so much more need than there is availability and training. So a lot of people are kind of getting their own dogs to do that training and
Yeah.
then getting them later on, which is fantastic as
Yeah.
long as all that kind of research and understanding is put into place. With kids like with autism, they may not always understand the right pressure to stroke a dog.
Yeah.
So again, they've got this puppy that all they want to do is love and play with, but they unintentionally are being a little bit more hard on them, by pushing down a little bit more, grabbing them a little bit more. And that alone is enough sometimes to start adding that reactivity. The dog's a bit more unsure.
Yeah.
And as a parent, you want them to like each other, and it's knowing when to intervene and to kind of balance it out. So both the child and the dog are enjoying each other's company rather than just enduring it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, especially if they're getting you bring a dog into your life, don't you? You've got it for a lot of years, and I think it's going to be extremely difficult for families, especially like I say, if they're coping with the neurodivergent needs of their child and the needs of their puppy, and it's trying to get them to understand, and in a way as well, it's in a way that children can understand, isn't it? Because as adults we can, we understand language, we understand, most things that are right and wrong kind of thing, but for children, like you say, who just want to learn, love it and cuddle it, and they can't understand why the dog's, I don't know, grumbling at them or doesn't want to be with them or is a little bit wary. And I suppose you have to be super careful that you don't go down that route of the dog, or the child, like not creating that bond together, because then they're stuck, well, I say stuck with the dog, aren't they? And it's then trying to get that bond back along with everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing all the different things you can get your children to do with the dog that isn't so hands-on really helps. So every time I do any kind of training, the children are involved. I get them to help prepare like lick mats and snuffle mats. And then we time how long it takes the dog to eat them. So it's fun for the child, but they're not physically holding onto the dog, grabbing hold of it. And even children from like as young as 2 can make up a lick mat. You can get some yogurt, get them to spread it on. They'll enjoy doing it. It's like almost like messy play for the child. And they will enjoy doing it. And they're building up that bond because the dog knows that the child has made it. It's just going to have its scent on it. It's going to be put in their safe space. And again, if you've got a nice safe space for your dog, so a crate, pen, or even just its bed, that you set by example that when the dog's there, we don't touch it. The child will learn quite quickly that when the dog's there, that's when we can't touch it. And then build up that positive. Okay, the dog's in her bed. Let's draw a picture of her, or let's read her a story while she's sleeping. So they're still involved and still wanting to build that bond, but without having to touch all the time.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And like you say, involving them with the training and the games and things, like even little things, I suppose, like, I don't know, hiding a bit of food or hiding the toy in the garden, you could get the child to go and do that. And then, like you say, it's hands off, and then they can watch the dog go and find it. And I suppose that's that level of bonding as well. But the child is still involved, isn't it? So it's like exciting for both sides. So that's really interesting. So that's fascinating, all the work that you do. So what would you say that the most common things are that people get wrong when it comes to children and dogs, and whether they're neurodivergent or not, and just in general?
Number one, I think at the moment is like almost impulse control. They get an idea on like a Friday and go, oh, it'd be great to have a dog in our family. By the Saturday, they're looking online, and by Sunday, they've put a deposit down on a puppy. So they've may have done some research previously, or they've had dogs before and gone, oh, I'd like that breed, but they haven't put enough time and investment into this dog, the one that they're looking for now. So really sitting down and writing a list of, do you want a male or female? Why do you want a male or female? So are you prepared for like the seasons? Are you ready to help being the neutering later on? What size do you want? Are you prepared for all the grooming if it's like a cockapoo or a poodle or that kind of breed? Does everyone in the family want it? So if you've got a 4-year-old and you want your 4-year-old to take the dog for a walk, there's no point getting a St. Bernard because it's going to pull them over. So knowing what you want in the family, and what size dog and breed, and really, really looking into it, and then what health tests those dogs should have before they have puppies, the right questions to ask, and really having it all written down and a plan that the whole family agree with is the one.
It's there's a lot to it, isn't there? Like you say, a lot of people, they might see something online or see their friends that have got a dog and they think, oh, I'm just going to go out and get one of those, and there's absolutely no guarantees, and it's very unlikely that you're going to get the same temperament as your friend's dog and things. And it's a minefield out there, isn't it? Just knowing, number one, what breed you're going to get, number two, is that suitable for my family? But then when you go on the internet, or where do you go to get the right dog for us? Because there is scams out there, there's puppy farms and all the negative kind of things. But I remember when I first got Milo years ago, I just got him, I just went online and I got him from the one of the sites that advertise these things. And I did actually do a lot of research, and I went somewhere local, just in the next town to us, because I thought, if anything kind of goes wrong, you've kind of got that. But I didn't really know all those years ago what I was doing, and I've chosen dogs very differently because of my experience and knowledge and stuff. But when you're just a normal, like, pet owner, just want to get your first dog, there is just so much to consider. And like you say, if they go out and do this, like they have no impulse control and just think, right, I'm going to go and get one, you're kind of stuck with it then, aren't you? And it's how you kind of come back from that, and the negative effects of, you know, oh my goodness, I've got this dog, it's nothing like what I expected it to be. You know, it's not doing what I want it to do. And like you've touched on before about how a lot of people see that finished article when it comes to, you know, I'm going to get a dog to help my neurodivergent child feel confident or to go out a little bit more. But I think sometimes it could be, and I imagine you come across this quite a lot in your job, quite a lot of initial maybe disappointments or frustrations, or just maybe setting realistic expectations when it comes to all of that kind of thing. Do you find that at all?
Yeah, so I find that not just in neurodivergency, but in pretty much all my puppy classes.
Yeah.
Puppies, just like children, they all learn at different rates. And just like when you do your homework, some people will train every single day and you can notice the difference. Some will come to the puppy class, not do too much until the next session. So you obviously can see the difference in the progress. And I spent the beginning of every single lesson telling everyone that dogs learn at different stages.
Yeah.
And just because this puppy is doing amazing right now, when it reaches its adolescent stage, that could all change.
Yeah.
Because hormones in dogs is a lot.
Yes.
Even like trainers' dogs, I know other trainers who had an amazing puppy, they've put them everywhere, shown them, they've taken them to all the places, proper socialization. Hit adolescence, those hormones come through and they're like, I can't take this dog out. Like for the next 4 months, I've got to re-go back in and really focus and do that training without the distractions. Their recall's not as good. And it's understanding those different milestones in both the dog's life and the child's life.
Yeah.
Again, if you get a dog when the child is 3 or 4, it's before they've started school, they're depending on the parents, they can come on walks all the time. As soon as they start school, they're at school 5 days a week. The bond might not be there. They might be too tired for the walks after. They may not want the dog around and they're busy trying to relax.
Yeah.
So understanding what you, and if you're about to have a second baby, just knowing what you want for your family and what's the milestones for the dog really kind of go together.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it? And I think, like I say, it's I remember when with all of my dogs, or 3 of them, they hit adolescence, and what I always say to all of my clients, I'm like, once they hit adolescence, just pretend they've never been trained. Just pretend you've never learned them anything, because that's what it's going to feel like. And I think as long as you warn people, like I say, when I was doing puppy classes stuff, I was like, I warn people, this is going to happen. It's not a reflection of you kind of thing, but we just need to go back. And I think it's one of the hardest things, isn't it, adolescence in dogs, because I think you've done all of this work, like you say, and then you can just change, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I've just not kind of undone all of that months. It just feels like all of those months have been wasted. Well, it hasn't, but it can feel like that, can't it? And to have the added pressure of, you know, children and their expectations is just another level, isn't it, to it all?
And sadly, most dogs get rehomed when they reach adolescence. So if a dog needs to get rehomed, it's usually between that 18 months and 2 to 3 years, because again, they've worked so hard on the puppy stage and thought they've kind of got through it, then the dog's kind of backtracked a little bit. And if you've got a child that is already kind of needs extra needs, having a dog that is going back but is now full size, a little bit more rougher if it is going to play, that could be the breaking point for some people.
Yeah, definitely. So we touched on it a little bit earlier, and when it comes to dog body language and stuff, how important do you think that is when it comes to general dog ownership, but especially when it comes to children and neurodivergent children? Do you think that's something that's like super important, and how do you incorporate it with the work that you do?
Yeah, it's definitely 100% important. Everyone thinks that a waggy tail means a happy dog. And that's not always the case. So knowing all those subtle signs, dogs can give up to like 10 to 15 signs before you even get to a growl or a bite. So the little head turn, the whale eyes, the little lick lips, all of those things are really good to be able to help the child notice as well. So when I'm doing any of my sessions, we play games with the dog, and as soon as the dog has had enough, I'll point that out. I go, oh look, I don't know, Sammy's got his ears down now. I think he's getting a bit tired. Oh, look, you know, we've just brought this treat out and he doesn't like this one, so his eyes are pinged a little bit more. Or, oh, we've got his favourite ball. Can you see his tail's wagging and his mouth's open, relaxed, you know. So it's in general conversation. It's not sit down, this is this
Yeah.
one, this is this one. But so
Yeah.
they start noticing it in themselves.
Yeah.
And anyone who's getting a dog for a child with neurodivergence, before they've even got that dog, I do recommend that they go to a park or a dog trainer if there is one near them, to just watch the dog's body language so the kids
Yeah.
can start understanding before they've even got their own. So it's in there straight away. Or even things like watching the funny dogs on YouTube. If you
Yeah.
watch some of those videos, again, you can notice, you can go, oh, that dog looks sad because the cat has the treat, or,
Yeah.
and then you're just pointing out those subtle signs. So it's so natural for them. It's by the time they get their own dog, they're knowing the signs rather
Yeah.
than just, yeah.
Yeah, I think dog body language is so important in general, and I used to put a heavy focus on it in my training, but it is not a lot of trainers do. I mean, you're getting the odd ones now, especially in my local area. A lot of, it's one of my little bit of a pet peeves, really, especially teaching agility. They all focus on skills and behaviors and stuff, but it's all of these other little pieces that are just as important, if not so more important, because them kind of things, they can either make or break a dog, can't they? They can either make or break a relationship, and you don't want to have, you can't cut out all negative interactions during the day, but you want to have as many positive ones as possible, especially when it comes to you and your own dog, or especially you and like the child's dog or whatever it is. So yeah, I think a lot more work needs to be done out there, and especially like you say with all these internet videos and things. Like once I always say to people, like, or trainers and stuff, like once you see body language, once you know dog body language, you can't unsee it. And it's kind of like a help and a hindrance, isn't it, really? Like, because I think for me, one of my things is whenever I'm out, my dog body language brain is always going, oh, that dog's doing this, so I can't always switch off. And sometimes you just want to switch off, and it's one of the main reasons that I take my dogs to like a secure field, so I can literally just go, no one's going to interact with you, nothing's going to happen, just I can switch off and you can switch off, kind of thing. So I think it's generally, especially from a child's perspective, learning it before they even get the dog and making it a fun game to notice, rather than seeing the dog, you wouldn't ever get it to the point where the dog would react, but having a reaction that's then going to negatively impact things. I think if a lot of trainers focused more on that and changing expectations as well, I think even in general classes, you can sometimes get owners that don't know dog body language, maybe it's the first dog or whatever it is, and the dog's saying something, or showing signs of something completely different to what the owner's thinking it's saying. And I think it can cause a lot of problems, can't it, later down the line?
I also think a lot of people, and I don't know if it's just our English British thing, but we're too polite to advocate for our dogs sometimes.
Yes.
So I've seen quite a few, not just parents, but owners, where they know their dog is uncomfortable in the situation. They can tell that its body language has changed, but they're
Yeah.
still allowing this other dog to come over because the other dog's friendly or the owner's talking to them. And I
Yeah.
have to kind of go over and go, okay, I know you're in puppy class right now, and everyone here is friendly, we're all together, but take your dogs away for a minute, watch their
Yeah.
body language, advocate for them. Even if it's me, if I come over and I'm half talking to someone else and I don't realize your dog's has changed, tell
Yeah.
me, advocate for it. We're
Yeah.
all human. There's sometimes that you're so busy doing something else that you
Yeah.
not notice that's like lip click or the little turn of the head going, actually, I've had enough of you.
Yeah.
If someone else notices it, advocate for it. Say, okay, we just need a little break. We're just going to pop over here. And then
Yeah.
that way you've got that kind of
Yeah,
safe
definitely.
stuff.
It's one of my things that I talk about a lot, because it's like, even on how the pavements are in the UK, they're often quite small, aren't they? And we've got a road just down the road from us. It's like a massive long road, and it's straight. So you see lots of owners walking the dogs, and they'll get so far, and their dogs will have this reaction, and they're like, oh, I don't know where that came from. I'm like, well, for about 100 meters now, your dogs have been eyeballing each other and showing you all of these signs and stuff, but they're just missing it because either they're looking at the scenery, or they're on the phone, or maybe they know the other person and they just want to say hello to them. Meanwhile, the dogs are having this awful time, you know what I mean? And it's been building up, when simply they could just think, oh, I'll just cross the road. But like I say, this British thing of us being too polite and stuff, or we don't want to seem rude. I'm definitely quite rude when I walk my dogs. I'm one of these people. I see someone coming, I just cross the road. It's like almost quite funny, really, when you see it, because I couldn't be like doing zigzags, because I know it's not what my dog wants at the moment. But When it comes to people thinking about getting parents thinking about getting a dog for their children, what advice would you give for anybody considering that, if they're listening to this thinking, well, I wanted to, I do want to get a dog for my child, neurodivergent or not? What would be your like top tips you'd say to look out for?
So top tip would be to go and visit as many of the dog breeds as that you think you want, and ask the breeder or the person owning it questions. So how were the dogs as puppies? Did they chew a lot? Would they fit into our home? Can I leave this dog for however long while I'm at work? Have I got someone that can pop in? Have a whole plan as if you're getting that puppy like the next day, even if you
Yeah.
haven't chose it yet. So when it gets to the time of choosing it, you've got it already. You're prepared. You know what to ask the breeders or the rescue centre. You know what to, all the equipment that you need. If you're going to crate train, where you're going to crate train, is that going to be practical? And all those other kind of information. Because researching the breed alone is brilliant, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's like you say, it can be within the breeds, you can get so many variations. And one thing that came up in a chat earlier I was having today actually is a lot of people out there don't actually know the difference between working line dogs and show line dogs. And I've definitely seen it a lot from being a trainer. And I've said to people, oh, where did you, making conversation, where did you get the dog from? What lines has it got? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like thinking, there's a big difference between a working Labrador and a show Labrador. And it's like, it isn't, to us as trainers, it's common knowledge, and it's one of the first things we look at. But there's not that much information out there, is there, when it comes to those kind of things?
Yeah. And again, a lot of people will look at a dog, like for example, a cockapoo, and they'll purely look at the coloration of it, not
Yeah,
what the percentage of, is it a half and half? Is it a first generation? Because
yeah,
it's not quite the same as when you get a kennel club and it's the breeders, they have to show you the generations. When you're
yeah,
going to kind of those mixed breeds, it's how much research have you done? Did the person you're getting it from, do they have kids? Is the dog already used to all those sounds? Does it go outside? Has it got a concrete garden? Has it got a grass garden? Does it already know
yeah.
how to go to the toilet outside? All those little things makes a huge difference, especially if you've got a family with young kids.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to dog professionals working with families and things, what would you think they should like consider a lot more? What do you wish that they would understand a lot more when it comes to working with families?
Get them involved. Get children involved. So I do a couple of workshops with some other lovely trainers. And one of the first workshops we did, we had different sections, and one of the dogs' families had brought kids with them. And for those first couple of sections before they got to mine, the kids were just watching from a distance, and the mum was doing all the work with them, which was lovely. It was good that they were there. She was still interacting. But when they got to me, I was like, no, 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 we're gonna get involved. Like you can
Yeah,
stand there, we're gonna practice recall, we're gonna do a recall triangle rather than that find it. So they're part of it. You could hear them giggling, you could see the progress was working. And
yeah,
at the end, they'd taken so much more from that part of the session than
yeah,
the two parts. And it wasn't intentional. Everyone was obviously there and we were all learning, but it was that, okay, kids should be involved, otherwise they're going to get bored, they're not going to want to come, which means then the mum and the parents are not going to want to come back. Because if you've got
yeah,
children going, I don't want to go, and it's cold and it's raining and you really have to get them in the car, you're just
yeah,
not going to go. Where if they're
yeah,
involved, they're like, oh, it's dog training now, and they want to come,
yeah,
that's a good advocate for your training business anyway. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, then it'll help build that bond and their safety. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's hard, isn't it, when I've definitely had classes where we've had it's a little bit different what we do in agility, but we've had parents come along with their children, and like you say, if it isn't well, it's been a little bit different when we've trained it, because it's the adults that want to do the agility, but the kids have just come along because of it. And like you say, they're there and they do get bored very quickly, and you have to be careful, because otherwise, with the agility equipment, they're climbing over the agility equipment, they're doing all the other things. So from my perspective, it was slightly different, because the parents didn't really want the children to have a go, they wanted to do it themselves. But
So I've had that situation on one of my classes. So rather than getting the child to train the dog, I've got them to be my photographer. I've been like, can you take pictures with the phone? And they've gone, oh, I'm like, here you go, here's my phone, take some pictures for me. and then enjoyed it. Or I've got a couple of the other kids to help set up the next section for me. So like the agility, give them obviously something that's not heavy or they're going to hurt themselves, but can you put these cones in a triangle for me? Can you, those little things that the children have been involved, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to be around the dog. They can just in the room, or even can you, if it's like agility, can you say who you think's going to win on this bit of paper? Bring a couple of like 10p sweets with you. Whoever gets the winner gets a sweet.
Brilliant idea. It's hard, isn't it, when you're trying to manage classes and manage everything. And from a dog trainer's perspective, so if there's any dog trainers listening to this, what advice would you give? So it is kind of, so I'm presuming you do mixed classes where there's some people that don't have children and some people that do have children. So how do you balance that out so you don't end up just basically spending all your time and focus making sure that everybody in that family is okay, if that makes sense?
Same as any class. So even if I have a whole class with no children at all, there might be someone in there that has got back pain, who might need a chair. You might have someone else that's a bit hard of hearing. You might have someone who has got, I don't know, like diabetes. I had one the other day that was on warfarin and he would cut his hand. So halfway through, we had to stop and help him out. But I asked the other clients to practice what we were doing another 2 times and see if they could improve it. So I think we were doing loose lead and I was like, right, you've learnt the basics. Can you see if you can get to 10 steps with loose lead while I help this guy? So they had their own goals while I was sorting out that person. Same as when we've got children, I give the children something to do and then go back and help, which I would do in any class because everyone is at a different level. So you're just making sure, again, their confidence. Someone could be at 30 paces for loose lead, someone could be at 5. So we build that in and go, oh, well done, you've got to 30 paces. Next week, we're going to get to 50. Well done, you've got to 5. Let's get to 7. Kind of, it's the same class, we're teaching the same thing, but everyone's at different level. So,
yeah, definitely. And I think from a neurodivergent like parents' perspective, like what advice would you give to them, like throwing you on the spot a little bit here, when it comes to they want to come to a class, but they have the needs of their children and this dog that they're finding overwhelmingly difficult or whatever, then they're worried about, you know, other people in the class and things like that. Like I know for me, my children were older when I got dogs, but I would be extremely worried thinking, oh my God, am I going to ignore people just because of how my neurodivergent brain works? I'm like, oh, you know, and that might put them off actually attending a class. So is there anything you could give to ease their mind, so to speak?
Yeah, so all of my puppy classes, or all my classes, we only have a maximum of 5 puppies in each one. So we purposely be at school because I want to make sure everyone is gaining progress and they can see it rather than it just being a big group. And every time someone arrives, we work out where they are. So I do my puppy classes half in a hall and half out in real life in the same 8 sessions. So 4 sessions are in the hall and then the other outside. If they're struggling with the hall sessions, I extend the outside ones by an extra 15 minutes for them. So they come to them instead of the hall ones or vice versa. Because again, dogs learn in different environments. And if they've got children that might be a little bit, might need a break halfway through, we'll put them closer to the door. So again, at any point, you can just go out the door, take a breather, come back when you're ready. If you miss something, that's fine, I'll catch you up. At the end of every lesson, they get a WhatsApp message saying what we've covered and how we've covered it. So they, again, if they've missed something for any reason, it's all on there. They can ask questions, they can re-practice.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really nice to hear that, like you say, you go to that extra detail of, like you say, understanding the families that are coming and doing something as simple as positioning them next to the door. And I think that's a lot of it, which is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing with the Neuro-Inclusive Dog Hub, is just trying to get as many different perspectives in there as possible. Because I think in general, unless you've got an understanding of, I don't know, working with kids and dogs or working with people with neurodivergence, you don't necessarily understand all of the needs. And I think sometimes it becomes a bit of a barrier, doesn't it? Like I've mentioned quite a few times in my podcast that what tends to happen is if as neurodivergent people, if we don't feel safe or if we don't feel like we are you know, if we can get much out of the class or we feel a hindrance, we just won't go to dog training classes and we'll go to the internet. But the internet can be full of wrong advice. And I think as dog trainers, we're all like, oh, you know, don't, you know, there's a lot of bad advice on the internet. But if we're not doing those extra steps to make neurodivergent people and families feel that they can come and use our services, then number one, you know, we're going to lose custom. But number two, there's going to be a lot of dogs that just aren't getting the right kind of training, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think because I've got a little bit of ADHD, I get really nervous about going to new places I've never been before.
Yeah.
And if I can't find it the first time, there's been times I've turned around and just gone home. I've
Yeah.
got, okay, this is too much. I can't figure it out. Especially if I'm running late for whatever reason. So I'll either turn up 10 minutes early to everywhere,
Yeah.
or I'll just go, that's it, I can't do this. And it's
Yeah.
that part of my brain. So what I do with all my classes is, because we go to different outdoor venues, I send them the address a few days beforehand, so it's not on an email right from the start. It's on the email right from the start, but then a couple of days remind them. And then I do a little video. So I'm like, this is where we park, this is how we get in, and then this is it. And again, once you've done that video once, you can use it for every single time. So I've got a video of the hall, I've got a video of the woods that we use, the field that we use, and I go, right, this is where we're meeting. If I'm late for any reason, or if anyone else is late, we'll be here.
Yeah.
If you're late for any reason, we're going to move from this meeting point to here, and here's how you get here. So again, they turn up, and I let them know if there's like poo bins beforehand, or if they need to bring like a little Tupperware pot to put the poo in. So then they're prepared, they're covered for all the instances.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wish all dog trainers would do that, because there's nothing I hate worse more than if I go to an agility workshop. I had one the other week, and it was just a postcode. Well, a postcode is quite a big area, and they're usually in middle of nowhere, these kind of places. And I'm like trying to find it, and I'm already worried about going because it's a new group, this, that, and the other. And like you say, I think it could have been solved a lot easier by just saying, oh, here's a video. You know, they go to their house all of the time, don't they? Just putting a little video on, or saying, you know, this is where usually people get stuck or whatever. And I think instead of turning up stressed and late and whatever, you're going to have a completely different experience. And like with everything that I say, the dogs pick up on our feelings, don't they? So if we're turning up stressed, you know, and rushing or whatever, the dog's going to go, oh my goodness, what's wrong with mum, dad, that kind of thing. And it's going to have a completely different experience to one if we were relaxed and, you know, knowing that if something goes wrong, well, I've got like a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
So when it comes to your own experience of running your dog business, how do you find that neurodivergence actually affects yourself or your business or your clients in general?
So one of the things that I find a lot, and I'm not gonna, it's kind of that good and bad thing, is I love learning new skills. So I think with ADHD, I've got so many skills, certificates and courses, and if there's something new out that I think, oh, that could relate to this, I want it. Which is really interesting, and I love doing it. But again, I think sometimes you can almost know too much information.
Yeah, definitely.
Or you know too much the information out there is similar, just worded different from each organization. So any new dog trainer or new person into training, try not to do that. I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of pick, like I think it's been mentioned before, like niches and areas to focus on. Something that you're really passionate about within that industry, and kind of go down that stream rather than a bit of everything, because you'll be able to show that a lot more in your work. Yeah,
I think it's definitely, like you say, from a neurodivergent perspective, I definitely learn everything. I was like, how much information can I learn? I want to learn about this and this and this. And it's good in general to have this general overall umbrella of knowledge, so to speak. But then you don't need to keep paying for all of the courses. And then, like you say, you go to a different course and it's just worded slightly differently, or the game's called something different. And you end up, like, because of imposter syndrome and all of that, you end up spending loads of money, and then you just sit back one day and you're thinking, actually, I don't need all of this. Do you know what I mean? And like you say, you can go down this one area. And I think when we first start, a common thing that I see with my clients is they want to learn as much as possible because they think they should. And like I said, a lot of what I've found in the dog industry is, although it's really important to get a good baseline of knowledge, keep up with your CPD and this, that, and the other, your clients are only interested in how you can help them, and you need the knowledge to be able to help them with whatever it is you're teaching them. So you don't necessarily need to know how to do, I don't know, scent work if you're doing agility or something. They're just extreme examples that have just come out of my head. And I think you can sometimes go down this road of, I want to learn this, or such and such says I need to learn this, or I need to be a member of certain organizations. And as a neurodivergent person, you can be like hemorrhaging money out when it just doesn't need it to be spent. Your money is best spent elsewhere, if that makes sense. And I do think it's a number one a neurodivergent thing, but I think any kind of neurotypical person new to the industry can fall down that rabbit hole as well. There's so much out there, isn't there, and so many opinions. It's just like, yeah, definitely resonate with that. Just be careful what you're, kind of slow down and, look at what you want to do long term. It's really important. So when it comes to any kind of changes that you have made in your business to better support your neurodivergent clients and yourself, what would you say those changes have been? So have you made any changes? Have you adapted what you do?
Yeah, so just allowing more time to do things. So beforehand, I would be like, oh, I need to do this by this weekend, and setting unrealistic goals and unnecessary pressure for really no reason. And also doing things messily rather than perfection. So getting something out there, even if there is a couple of spelling mistakes, even if it's not amazing, means that it's getting out there and they can improve it later. Because that way I'm helping my clients. So again, every time someone comes to my classes, they get a PDF like manual from what we're going to cover, but I don't give it to them straight away, because if you're new and you're just starting and I send you a 32-page manual on this is how we do everything, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And some people will look at it and they'll try and do all of it before they get to the next class.
Yeah.
Other people won't look at it at all, and then they go, oh, why do they know what that means? Because we've not got to that bit yet.
Yeah.
Mention that they're going to get this manual, and at the end of the course, I send it to them to recap and they can go through it. But even in the manual, it's got pictures, it's got how we do things step by step, and they're at different levels. So it's like, for example, a sit. We can do a sit vocally or visually. Your next step for it would be if you can do it without the hand moving, or if you could do it 2 goes without a treat. So they can see the criteria. So every little bit has that slightly lower or slightly higher criteria for where they're at, which helps everybody with their kind of understanding. And I'm currently trying to do a couple more videos to go with it. So if someone is better visually learning, they can visually see, okay, this is how we do it, rather than reading or looking at like the photos.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting what you said there as well with the, like say, the manual and things, and knowing the timing and when to put it out to your students. But also, for me, it's important that like you say, if you're niching down into a specific area, you have that extra time to do that extra detail, don't you? Whereas if you're trying to do all of the things, you can only do all of the things as well as time allows. But if by niching down and thinking, right, this is my area of, passion, my interest, you can put that extra effort into that and just, develop an even better service and give your clients exactly what they want in a variety of different ways depending on their learning styles. So yeah, it's really interesting how it all kind of fits together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've covered quite a lot in today's podcast, so we're just going to finish off with some quick fire round questions just to get to know you a little bit more. So first one, tea or coffee?
Tea.
Tea, excellent. Well, we're like evening it up. When I first did these podcasts, everybody was coffee, and I'm tea, you see. And I'm like,
coffee. I feel like it's an adult thing. So every now and again, I'll retry it because I'm like, oh, I must like it because I must be an adult now. I've got 2 kids and have been married for 14 years, but if I like coffee, I feel like I'm not an adult.
This is it. Yeah, I feel exactly the same. I'm the same, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just try it again. No, I still don't like it. I'm not keen. So if you had to pick one, what is your favorite dog breed?
Golden Retriever.
Excellent. We've had that before, actually. It's quite a popular one. So what would you say your go-to dog product is that you use yourself or recommend all the time?
Probably enrichment toys. So lick mats, snuffle mats, even just cardboard tubes with treats in them. It's just anything to keep the dog busy, sniffing, happy.
Yeah, amazing. So lead walk or off lead adventure?
Mix of both, depending on the dog.
Amazing, yeah. We've had off lead adventures so far, so that's good that we've got a different spin on it. And what's your favourite way to recharge after a busy day?
Cuddling on the sofa with my Goldie, usually reading a book, probably about dogs.
Amazing. This is it. I always say, like, when I first started, people said to me, you need to have a hobby or something that is not dog related. And I'm like, still haven't quite got to that, that stage yet.
I always say to my clients that honestly, I'm obsessed with dogs. If I'm not doing some sort of course on them, training or looking after them, I'm on TikTok watching other dog videos. I'm reading books about dogs. I probably
Yeah,
need a different hobby, but yeah, it's dogs.
oh, super. So thank you very much for joining us on today's podcast. Where can people get in touch with you if they want any further information about what you do?
Thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Facebook under Loopy Paws or on my website, which is www.loopypawsdogtraining, all one word.com.
Super. And are you on social media at all?
Yeah, so I've got TikTok, which is loopypaws_toaster, Facebook, which is Loopy Paws, and Instagram, which is loopy_paws.
Super. So what we'll do is we'll put all of the links as well under this podcast. So
Okay.
thank you again for joining us on the podcast. And if you are watching or listening to the podcast, make sure that you subscribe or hit follow so you don't miss another episode. So it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Louise.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.